Yeah, the real shop talk. Just come and take a listen. Some grown men with unbiased and honest opinions, and with no agendas, so you just gotta check it. Talking love and life from a male perspective. We keep it authentic, real, no filter. Leave a comment, be part of the show. We here to give you 5 gentlemen's views about manhood, no doubt. This the show you've been needing, yeah, it's the real shop talk. Let's go.
Good evening, everyone. It is the Real Shop Talk. It is Monday night, so you know what it is. It's 5 men with no agenda here to talk shop. We're talking about all the hoods, manhood, brotherhood, fatherhood, everything that's all good. Last week, we had a great conversation about relationships, specifically the very tumultuous relationship that Black men have with stress. Staying in that vein, we are going to have another conversation tonight about relationships. And tonight we're having a relationship. We're talking about the relationship between Black men, the very unique relationship between Black men and their mothers. Now, this should be a very interesting show, because the one thing that Black men have in common is their undying, unshakable love for their mothers. What we don't have in common is the type of relationship we have with our mothers. I came up with this show idea, and I don't say that to pat myself on the back. I say that because I think this is a conversation that needs to be had, because what we're discussing here is the origin and the backdrop and the true understanding of what makes a mama's boy. I'm reminiscent of the song by Tupac. Although you were a crack fiend mama, you still was a Black queen mama. What is it about the relationship between a man and his mother that makes it so that she gets a pass, not in the way that fathers do? That's what we're talking about tonight. If you're watching this by yourself, share it. If you're watching this with us, get ready to comment, because this is going to be a heater. But before we do anything, let's go ahead and introduce everybody on the panel so that everybody knows exactly who is in the building. Starting to, I always get confused. Starting to this brother right here, the other Tony of the TNT, Mr. Tony Watts. Go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
Well, hello, everybody. Glad you guys can join us one more time. Like Tony said, this is going to be an exciting topic. I am very interested in learning where we're going to go with this. I have no idea. Well, like I said before, I'm Tony Watts. I'm a certified life coach, NPL practitioner. I also host Triumphant TV. We do a lot of beautiful and marvelous things, and I'm here with these 5 incredible gentlemen to just, sparse this out to see what this is going to look like. So we want you to comment, because we learn by what you guys say, and just jump in. And I guess I got to pass the baton over this way to my man, John.
Here I am. I'm that guy. You see right there below me? That's me. That's who I am. Man, shout out to our host and producer, Tony Massey. He's a poet, and he does know it. You know what I'm saying? A Renaissance man. He do it all. What?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We are glad to be here. I'm not going to do a long intro or nothing like that, but I do want to encourage. I'm a mama's boy, so I'm real curious to see what's going to come out tonight. But hey, man, I want y'all to give us some good comments in there, get this conversation popping and flowing. And if you hear some background noise, don't be alarmed in there. That's just my son back there trying to pretend like he's the DJ or something. So we all good, but I'm going to shoot it down to my man, Derek Relationship Gumbo Jones.
We can't hear you, sir.
Oops. Let me go back and rewind. Welcome back, everybody. A lot of you guys been here since the first show. So keep on coming back, keep on sharing. And the new people, we love you too. Share, and invite everybody you know. These shows are amazing. My name is Derek Jones. I'm a certified life and relationship coach, host of the Relationship Gumbo podcast every Wednesday night. And we just gonna get this. This gonna be an interesting topic. I'm excited to see what you guys' comments are. So that's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna go ahead and give it to my man, Gunter Man.
Yeah, what's up, guys? What's going on? That's right. Gunter Man's in the building. I am the host of the Gunter Man Show. I am a relationship life coach. You guys can check me out on Instagram, a soapbox stand up and speak. Of course, tonight is going to be exciting. We appreciate you guys always showing up. When we had a little bit of technical difficulties in the beginning, I started sending out texts to the people I know that's going to follow us. It's a real good feeling that I know that I have some people that are going to jump right in and get involved, because you are the sixth man. That's what you have to see. There's 5 gentlemen right here, but you are the sixth man. Your comments add the right amount of flavor and balance, and your voice is being heard. Your voice is being heard, and it truly does make a difference. So thank you so much, guys, for showing up.
So let's get it popped off, guys. Let's get it right into it. Let's start with the relationship between Black mothers and Black sons. And I feel confident using separating us from other men, because I do think that our relationships with our mothers are very unique. And I think that has a lot to do with our unique experience as Black people, or I'll even say people of color. I'll include any minority group, because I think that the relationship between minority men and their mothers is very unique, in that I think that for many of us, even with fathers in the home, especially if you have siblings, younger siblings, if you happen to be the oldest, and you don't have to necessarily be the oldest sibling, but if you're the oldest male, you have taken on a paternal role in your home. So let me ask this. Let me start the conversation off with this. How has the relationship with your mother impacted relationships that you've had with women, whether those relationships be platonic or those be romantic relationships? How the way you deal with your mother? Yeah, are we bringing heat from right out the gate? We ain't waiting around. We got people that are here ready for a conversation, so we're not gonna tiptoe into this one. How has the relationship with your mother impacted the relationship you've had with women, whether it's on a platonic level or romantic level?
All right, man, let me jump in there. So my mom, man, she's I'm not gonna call her new school, but I think she was on the verge of being new school. Like there were times when our relationship felt more like little brother, big sister, rather than, because I was, for the most part, raised by my grandmother. That was my rock. My mom, man, she did her thing, but she was still growing up when I came along too. So we kind of grew up together. And man, my mom's the church lady now. And I tell people all the time, don't let that sweet, nice, all that, praise the Lord, don't let that fool you. She a savage, man. She is a savage, man. My mom was wild. And but I do think I have an advantage, man. I think because I didn't quite understand everything, we had beef for real. I had some stuff I had to go through and get off my chest, but I saw my mom kind of like a superwoman. So like my level of respect for women is like way up there. Like, it wasn't a lot of men around. So I saw my mom, her sisters, my grandmother, I just saw all of them doing it. So I think I come into any kind of relationship, my friendships, romantic relationships, with obviously respect. I'm trying to think of another word. Maybe putting on a pedestal isn't the right word, but since I can't think of nothing else, I'm gonna go with that. Kind of, I kind of put them up there high, and Shaw don't want to say that, but hey, we here. I think sometimes I set myself up for disappointment. You know what I mean? So, but being around a lot of strong women, you know, it kind of puts you at a level where you kind of expecting some things out of women. You kind of expecting, and it's not always fair. I think one of the things that we'll probably be able to pull out during this conversation, I know ladies will chime in, is this idea of a strong Black woman or a strong woman, and it's usually tied to all of this garbage that men put them through to quantify and qualify them as strong, which is garbage, you know, like I said. So, but that relationship with my mom, you know, it hurt me in some ways, but I think it gave me a good foundation for having respect for what women bring to the table.
So one of the things that I've noticed before anyone chimes in is I like what you talked about, strength. And one of the problems in the Black community, in my opinion, is that we have a tendency to measure a Black woman's strength by what she can endure rather than what she can avoid. And I think that has when I think about my own relationship with my mother, that has played a part. I don't want to put my mother's business in the street, but she endured so much. And I watched what she endured as a child, as a young man, and that I turned into or transformed into strength. When the reality is that, you know, it's not about what you can endure. It's about what you can avoid. And that's what I kind of took that into manhood. Well, I didn't want a strong Black woman that could take what I gave her. I wanted a strong Black woman that can avoid my crap. See, you know this is a deep conversation. See, nobody wants to talk about their mama. Usually we're talking over each other. We're playing a double dutch, trying to get in, trying to figure.
No, we always.
Everybody got nothing to say about their mama.
We always start off slow. Then what happened was, we got what we waiting on is we waiting on Tony Massey to go into one of his classic soliloquies, you know what I mean? I want some of that. That's what we waiting on, man.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do my part. I think my personal relationship, as far as like how it affected who I chose, especially in the earlier, like in the probably like my whole 20s or whatever, my mom was very like analytical, measured, you know, managing the money, and everything had to be kind of calculated. That's probably why I turned out to be an engineer. But when I started dating and really like getting into relationships, I found myself looking for someone that was like super soft, as opposed to, you know, running, you know, I won't say she ran the household, but she definitely was behind all the paperwork and all. She was the one that made sure. So when I first started dating, I wanted somebody that was real soft and cuddly, and I didn't want to have all of that going on. I wanted to just have like the attention and the affection. We can talk about the other logistics later. And I ran hard trying to find that affectionate side. Almost obsessed with it. And, you know, over time, I look back, you know, especially now at this age, I look back and I can kind of point to that's why. But in that moment, I didn't know why. I just knew I was searching for kind of sort of the opposite of her. You know, like sometimes we look for what our moms are. I was kind of looking for stuff that was kind of opposite, because that wasn't like, I think for me, it was the nurturing part that I needed in my relationships. And I went for that first before any other things were checked off. That's what I wanted to feel first. So that's kind of like how mine was. Like some people always say, you know, you're looking for your mom, maybe a little bit, but most of it was like, I didn't want that. I didn't want it to be so measured. So I went for stuff that was kind of a lot more like loose and just more free, you know. I looked for more people that would kind of fall into the category of like a freer mind, or somebody that didn't necessarily have to fit into a calculated box, and I just ran with it. So that's my part.
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in now. Where do I begin? I'm from a Caribbean background. My mom is from the British Virgin Islands, Tortola. My dad is from Jamaica. And my mom was like my best friend growing up. I could rattle off lists. I learned how to cook by the time I was 9 years old. Washing clothes, household chores, as well as being able to sew. I can sew, make outfits, and all that stuff. I mean, I grew up right under my mom's foot, as they used to say back in the days, right under my mom's foot. And having a love for her and having her connection allowed me to see the woman's dynamic, how they show up. The downside with my mom was that she was sick a lot. She was in and out the hospital a lot. Whatever number you're thinking about is a lot, you could probably triple it. That's how often my mom was in the hospital. So I got to see my dad like tend to her, cater to her, be there. But my dad was a part of that. We talked about it on the Clubhouse, part of the silent generation, where my mom really raised me. My dad was there, but no real detailed conversation about life, love, living, relationships came from a conversation I had with my dad. That's only until I got to older. When I got much older, that's when my father, had to say, "Hey, I'm seeing you moving in this direction." But it was really my mom. My mom kind of gave me all the guidance. Now, how would that affect my relationships? I remember when I was maybe a 7th, 8th grade, somewhere in there, having feelings for a girl. And my mom says, don't get to the place in your life where you get your heart broken and you feel like you're lost and you're nothing special based on what a girl puts you through. She said to me, and I quote, "There's plenty of fish, what? In the sea. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Well, Lord have mercy." I guess I must have tried to kind of figure out the whole entire sea. Let me tell you, I dated from dated to dated to dated to dated to dated. I was going and I was from this one. I mean, sometimes I can tell you, I had no clue how the relationship ended. I had no clue, absolutely no clue how the relationship ended. Now, as you get older, you find no pride in saying this. I can laugh about it, but there is no pride of having some ridiculous list of women in your past, because what I didn't do is learn how to develop a relationship. I didn't figure out how to work through the hardships that just come in everyday miscommunications. Somehow it's just, hey, a little rough patch. Hey, move on to the next one. A little bit of rough patch. So I had a whole lot of 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 month relationships, a ton of them. And once again, if you could think of a number, you could almost triple it. So that's it. So what I got from my mom is a real connection with women. Like I come in, I'm the chivalrous guy. I'm the one open the door, hold the door, pull the seat out. And to this day, I still do it. I walk on the outside of the sidewalk. All these things my mom has passed down to me because she was my best friend. It's who I ran around with all the time. But I guess never getting to the place where I spoke about the effects of that phrase being told to me at a young age, "There's plenty of fish in the sea." I didn't develop the mindset of how do I talk about the things that are going wrong in a relationship. So I got to the place of marriage and never really had a relationship. So how I went into marriage, going from one person to the person, next, and then I got married to one. I never developed the skills. So even though I was full of love and I took trips everywhere, oh God, like you want to date me because I respect you. I show up. I show value in you. I share my heart. I'm a talker. So I tell you all the bits and pieces of how I feel and what I'm thinking. I tell you all that stuff, but I wouldn't know how to work out an argument. because I'm full of bubbles. I'm full of energy. I'm full of life. Like, why are we arguing about this? Back then, it's like, I got crazy money. Why are you worried about anything? Why we can do anything we want? Like, why? No. Money don't mean a damn thing when somebody wants to share the things that are on their mind, when they want to share the things that are on their heart, and you don't give a listening ear and figuring out how to kind of work through all that stuff. So that's my kind of take for right now. I don't want to ramble too long, but yeah.
All right, let me get in and out of this real quick. My mom's was, always will be one of my best friends. She was my first best friend.
A little louder.
I said she was my first best friend. So I'm in the category of John. When we were young, she had a sailor. She talked like a sailor. But now it's praise the Lord, hallelujah, and pray for you into the things change. But when it comes to between relationships, I didn't look for to do what my mother said as far as relationships going from the outside. I did what my father told me: hunt, gather, continue to hunt. So there's no real, because my mom was always, boy, you better stop it. Or she would say, boy, don't bring no girl to this house that's not your girlfriend. So no, if you got to meet my mother, that was important.
So, you guys, can you hear me okay? Okay. So, do you think that, okay, so for the guys that have siblings on the panel, and for the audience as well, please chime in on this. There's this idea, there's this I call it a myth. My sister wouldn't. Do mothers treat their sons differently than they treat their daughters? Is it real that sons get away with more, they get more attention, they get more provisions, do boys get treated differently than girls by their mothers?
So I'm going to take that one real quick and say yes, absolutely. Because I can remember times when it was a Saturday morning and I could stay up, I could stay in bed a little later while everybody else is up cooking, cleaning, and doing things like that. So I would say, yeah, in my situation, that was true. That we got a little bit more leeway. It was a little bit more, I don't have to worry about them. Because that was during the time, you didn't want to be somebody's baby mama. You wanted to make sure that the girl was well protected. So my sister was always under my mom's arm. So I would say yes. That's just my opinion.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna say yes. I mean, don't get me wrong. Now, it wasn't no games played in the house. So like my mom's kicked me out when I was 16, so she wasn't playing. But man, I remember my little sister, man, she came in real late. She had been hanging out with this guy, and I knew the dude, he's a church guy, man. That's not to say he wasn't trying nothing or whatever, but it was a whole misunderstanding. And I always came in late. Like, it wasn't no thing for me to stumble in 3-4 o'clock. It was just what I did. But my little sister came in late one time, man. It was a whole production, man. Like, fireworks in the crib. So it was definitely a double standard, no doubt. Like, I stand on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Double standard in my house too. I don't think growing up, maybe it might be different now that we're older, but growing up, my sisters did not have the same relationship that I had with my mom. Like, it was me and her. It really was. I had two sisters. I'm the middle kid, older sister, younger sister. My sisters were closer, I guess, to my dad, but they were nowhere close to how I was with my mom. They really weren't in the picture much. Like, even when you got to your teens, I was the person I was there sitting at the kitchen table cooking holiday dinner, early, 4 o'clock in the morning type of thing, where you're doing it overnight and prep work. It's always just my mom and myself. That's it. There was no one else. Now, as far as traveling, I told you I went on tour when I was in 11th grade. I was full tilt boogie by the time I'm in 11th grade. So what are you, 16 years old? 16 to 17 years old. I'm already on tour. hopping on planes, getting on bus rides, and just going and traveling. I mean, I had that type of freedom. I don't exactly know how it was for my sisters, but for me, I had the freedoms. But on the same note, my mom was super protective over me. So she wouldn't let me play like high school football. She said, like, you're not going to break up my child. My only one pickany boy? No, you're not breaking up my child.
What about you, Derek?
I just have a younger brother, so I don't have like the whole, sister, son dynamic. So I can only speak to what I've seen, and I would say yes. Yeah. But other than that, I don't have like a direct experience with it in my family, but it's definitely something that we've all seen, whether people like to admit it or not. And it's, I think to a certain extent, it's almost kind of like, I don't know. That's a good question. The why, right? Yeah. The why it is that way. I guess there's probably a few different answers, but yeah, I know there's some reasons why they're a little more toxic than others, but yeah, that's an interesting question. Maybe we'll parse some of that out tonight. But yeah, I don't know if you got that clip either, but that clip speaks directly to that too.
Yeah, I'm about to roll that up right now. Okay. So my wife says, son, for mothers, your daughter is your daughter for a lifetime, or your daughter is yours for a lifetime. Your son is only yours until he gets married. And for me, I'll be very transparent. That relationship between my wife and my mother, if that's not working, that can be very painful. That can be very painful because you're talking about the two most important women in your life. And if they're beefing with each other, it's hard. So I think on some level, because my sister will tell you with 100% certainty, yes, we get treated differently and it's unfair. She really believes that my mother favors me. She believes that my mother makes provisions for me. And she even says that I'm my mother's favorite. I don't see it that way. I think that on some level, it's the nature of our relationship is different. Whereas I don't go to war with my mother with the same tenacity and fervency that my sister does. I let things go. But my sister and my mother, sometimes they're so much alike. I think that sometimes they butt heads. But yeah, let me play this video right quick because I don't know that that's always a good thing. And so when we lead into the conversation about mama's boys, and I really want to talk about that because I've been accused of being one at some point in my life. And I wasn't sure how to take it. I wasn't sure if it was an offensive thing or if it was whatever, because for a long time, I mean, that's my first love. For any young boy, that's the first woman that you fall in love with, right? And for some of us, that becomes the blueprint for what a woman is. But that's not always a good thing because the nature of the relationship between a mother and a son is very different than a mother and a wife or a mother and a girlfriend. Because to have the expectation that you're gonna love me like my mama loves me, yeah, that's that ain't gonna work, bro. Because ain't nobody gonna love you like your mama do. Because your mother has that agape love. To me, I've always said the only true existence of agape love on earth is the love between a parent and a child, not between a child and a parent. Because the love between a child and a parent is very transactional. It's very, they'll go 0 to 100 real quick. You don't buy the PS5, I hate you. I hate everything about you. I can't believe you're ruining my life. Whereas from a parent to a child, you can't stop me from loving you. So, but let me play this video because I really want to talk about it.
Mothers in general are soft on they boys. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's just what it is. Like they don't raise their boys and they girls the same way. Like they super hard on their girls.
Yep.
Super hard. Like, you can't do nothing. I don't even want to hear about a boyfriend till you 18, and you can't leave this crib. You got to be in this house by 8, 7 o'clock, this, that, and the third. But with they boys, he can go out there and act a goddamn fool, and they going to cover for him. What is that going to do to him? Okay, he going to feel like, I got free reign to do whatever I want. My mom going to cover for me. Compared to a girl, you getting raised, if you fuck up, your mama is on your ass. It's like ready to put hands and feet on you. You know what I'm saying? But with boys, it's not like that. So I think what she's saying is you can't raise your sons that way and then complain about the men that you dating. Because more times than not, that man that you dating, his mama raised him just like you raising your son.
Shout out to Crew Season for that clip. What do you guys think?
He's on point. He's absolutely on point. And unfortunately, I was prompted to a clubhouse room today that was just made no sense. And I'm saying to myself, the questions that I had is one of the questions I had would have asked the gentleman in the thing is how many of you were raised by a single mom? Because now you guys have taken on this new lingo of the way you act, the way you want to show up as a man. But was there a man in your life to raise you when you were growing up? So now you have all these crazy expectations to put on the women that you want to date, or the word was used in a thing that we all hate is simping, and I'm like, they all had different definitions for it. It was all just so scattered. But now we back up and look at the how many young men are being raised by single mothers without a man in the house, and she let him do whatever she wanted to. The guy was right. I went out in the street. I had my pops in the house, and I went out in the street, did what I wanted to do, because I had no real curfew. I had no real time to come home. So I literally thought until my best friend died, there was nothing I could do. I thought I was immortal. So my actions and everything I did, I moved in that type of space. So if you give a young man that type of carte blanche as a mother that doesn't put that same type of restrictions on the same restrictions you have on your daughter, on your son, they can get out of hand. I'm not saying this is not a linear thing. It doesn't happen across the board, but it can happen. It does happen, and I think we're seeing the results of it now. That's just my thoughts.
I'll chime in real quick because I when I saw this video the first time, I thought about some of the things that I hear women talk about today when they're dating. And a lot of times you'll hear there's a lot of low effort, entitled, don't want to step up to the plate type of men. Why can't they be more assertive? Why can't they be this or that? And when I saw this video, I was like, oh, if a guy or a human, but we talking about the leniency that boys get when they're young, if you never really had to put forth that effort and you were given so much leniency, do you then grow into a man who thinks that they don't necessarily have to do as much because there were no barriers? And when you start dating, especially now, it's a lot of women that I hear complain about these low effort guys. They think that they're supposed to get this or that. And unfortunately, sometimes they get it, but the behavior has to come from somewhere. And I think, like I see some of the comments saying that some women, were not leaning on their boys, but there's a whole lot of them that were and that are. And there's always a price to pay for that. Good up. And unfortunately, it's not always positive. I think a lot of times, their households, there may be a single mother household, and we can talk about the dudes for the next 15 episodes if we want to. But when you look at some of these households where the son is like 5, but he's being told he's the man of the house and all of that, there's something that there's a price to pay for that. There's a price to pay for that. And I think we're seeing the results of it now. Whether we like to admit it or not, and we'll say, and not again, I want to preface this with, I am not excusing the behavior, but in order for us to look at the origins of the behavior to try to see if somewhere in the future that we can try to correct some of this stuff, we got to talk about it. It's not easy to talk about, but it happens. So I'm going to land there.
That's how you feel? No, I'm just playing. Nah. So I will say, that valid points. I will say that I don't think it's fair to call it the Genesis, because a single mother didn't get there by herself. That it didn't happen like that. So that's absolutely not the Genesis. I think one of the things that, and we've got, I just would prefer we be careful sometimes when we think about it, because, you can look at all of the limiting factors in a single parent home and all the things that could come out of it. But, at the end of the day, mom's was the crutch, and we don't know what life was like with the crutch. You're wearing a crutch, obviously, because the leg is injured. So try to walk on that leg without the crutch, but you don't know what that reality is, but you judging the crutch, and sometimes the crutch ain't ideal, but it's what you got because the leg is broken. So, I think sometimes there are other factors, obviously, man, the love of a mom is incredible. Sometimes, as fathers, we're fathers and we come in, and I know that we've all had these conversations with the mothers of our children. You being too soft. That boy need to do this. But that's the energy we bring. It's not an actual real critique. That's what we do. I mean, all of us said, yeah, we've done that before, because that's just what we do as men. But then you leave it, like for me, we were talking about it before we got started. I was like, man, every time, I'm around some females that LJ know ain't his family, he out there looking at him like, Dad, you need to close this deal. We need some feminine energy up in here, because I'm sure it's a whole bunch of masculine going on here. It's a whole lot of, and he bring out a softer side of me, but still my energy is masculine. The way that we roll is masculine. So, I think if you could turn it on the other hand, there's things that, maybe my son isn't getting from me as a single father that he needs to get from women. And so obviously I'm blessed to have a multitude of women in my life that he can be exposed to and spend time with. But I mean, if it wasn't balanced, there would probably be a part of him that was hyper masculine and didn't have that nurturing side to him. So, I mean, we just got to be careful when we try to call it the source. It is a part, but I don't think it's fair to call it the source.
So one of our faithfuls, and shout out to everybody who tunes in every week. We appreciate you. One of our faithfuls, she posted a comment that I'd really like to explore, if you guys don't mind. Dope Discussions with Erica, the podcast. She says, would you guys say that your mother was the primary disciplinarian in your childhood? And if so, does that give you the expectation that your wife will be that for your kids? So I'll start off with this one. The primary disciplinarian, yes. And not only that, she created this air around my father that made me fear him more, although she was the one that was the disciplinarian. So much so that she'd say, I shielded you from I don't want to tell your father. So I'm going to go ahead and give you this whooping so that your father doesn't have to. So she kind of put him on the shelf as a, break glass in case of emergency type situation, so that he never really had to intercede because she was always there. But now that I'm older, I realize I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think she was almost using him as a means to kind of get me to believe that he actually was engaged like that, but he wasn't. But she needed leverage, because at some point I started to get older, taller, you know, I played football in high school, you know what I'm saying? So at some point she still needed that fear, because I was getting to the point where I, you know, my mother's 5'2". You know, what are you going to do to me? Right. As it relates to when I was married to my son's mother, I won't lie, I did not want her to have to take on that role, because I felt I remember being confused by that role. I remember when those times when my father wasn't there and she had to be both disciplinarian and nurturer, it was very confusing for me for her to spank me or to whoop me and then to come in and console me, you know, to explain to me why she just did this and that, you know, I do this because I love you and this hurts me more than it hurts you and blah, 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 blah. That didn't resonate with me, because all I saw her as was the person that just, you know, tightened me up with my belt, you know what I mean? And so I wasn't in a position to receive that, because I was still angry about the consequences that I just suffered. And we had to work that out, you know, throughout my childhood and my adulthood. But I didn't want my son to be in that position, even if that meant I would take on the bad guy role and she would come in, you know, his mother would come in afterwards, and at least he had a different face. At least he had a different person. And so by the time she calmed him down and stopped all his, you know, sniffling and all this other stuff, then I could come in after every you know, everything was done, and then I could kind of explain myself. But it's not in the moment where he's he doesn't have someone at least to understand his plight, even though he deserved those consequences. What do you guys think?
You're on point. Unfortunately, or fortunately for my home, it was an equal opportunity belt whipping. You know, I think they Jimmy Fly snookered me and took turns. Like, all right, here's the belt for you. Just jump off the top rope. You know, I wasn't a good guy. Like I was a bad boy. I was always doing what I was not supposed to be doing. So I got it from all angles. Like I said, my mother she spoke like a sailor. She's tough. She was in the streets. Like she understood I think she understood what consequences was if you get out there and you get out of line. So she wanted to make sure, that I had a kind of head on my shoulders when I was out there, that I wouldn't do something too crazy. So I got it from both angles. I would say if I got beat 1,000 times, 500 for both of them. that's my lane right there.
For me, I don't remember really being beat by my mom. Like, I must have gotten away with murder, but like, imagine the energy I have now as a little kid. I got beat, like Tony says, so many times. By the time I was 9 or 10 years old, they couldn't even beat me anymore because it just didn't hurt. I got beat so often. Matter of fact, I would get beat if my younger sister would do something wrong, because why are you not watching over her? So I got that type of beat. But now my connection with my mom was so tight. I could only remember maybe one time my mom slapping me in the face. And even that became a whole laughter thing with me and my mom in the same exact moment, because I wasn't listening. I must have lied about something. Pow! And you're like, gruesome, isn't it? Remember that from the cartoons? And she started laughing, and and that's the friendship that we had. Now, carrying that into my relationships, I don't know. I don't think I've ever had to think about how would the woman role take place with the kids, because when I got married, my wife and I never had kids. So I never had to take that position. And my daughter came from just a relationship. So I never had those dynamics to kind of work through and wonder if, but I'm the real, like my dad was a disciplinarian. He's the one who got on me, like fear, like dad will find out and dad will handle business. And most of the beatings came from dad, mom passing on the information to dad. Then my parents, like I said, very, very Caribbean background, like no curse words came out their mouth, no drinking, no smoking. They were God-fearing people, but you didn't hear about God all the time. But they were God-fearing people. We went to church on Sundays. But as far as being like the disciplined one, nah, my mom kind of ratted on me rightly so. But dad handled business, and boy, did a dad handle business.
Yeah, I think mine is very similar to Tony Massey's, where my mom was the primary disciplinarian, and she did, instill the fear of dad possibly coming in, but dad he didn't really have to. But there was that one year, because I have a brother that's a couple years younger than me, that he when my mom tried to she spanked him first, and he looked at her because it wasn't hurting no more, and he looked at her and laughed. And I was like, what are you doing? She still got to come to me next. I was like, what do you? And at that point, the formidable growing years, though, it was all her. But when that happened, dad had to be the one after that because it wasn't working no more. But yeah, the dynamic of her being the disciplinarian, nurturer, kind of, sort of, is it. Like I said earlier in the show, when I started dating and talking to women, I went the other way. I didn't want no parts of that kind of strength. I was like, let me go super, super duper soft and needy, because I ran from it. So yeah, she definitely was primary for even to this day, she be, but yeah, I'm gonna land there.
Man, nah, my story is totally different, man. My mom was the judge, the jury, and the executioner. She's a savage, man. Look, I hold court telling the stories of how she used to brutalize me as a kid. It wasn't none of that. I got to an age where it didn't hurt no more. She just switched her tactics when I got older. So, nah, she ain't play. And she did that whole shut up all that crying before I give you something to cry about. I'm like, you just beat me for 30 minutes straight. I got plenty to cry about. What are you talking about, woman? She was a savage, man. Like, she had me to the point, and it's something I be trying to practice with my son, but he don't take me serious. But she had me to the point where she could just make that look, do that look, and then all of a sudden the fear guy just stiffen up. She had it like that, man. And I'll never forget. Reason why I got kicked out. Had my growth spurt, got up to about 6 foot. My mom's about all of 5'3", but I don't know why I thought I could do this, because my mom, man, she got hands, man. Like, I always knew she had hands. I've seen her beat people up, like, but nah. And I wasn't even trying to do nothing, but she was talking and I was sitting down. So I just kind of wanted to give it the effect of me standing up slowly so she could see. And she looked at me and she said, oh, that's what you want to do, man. She cocked back. She hit me in my chest so hard. After about 20 minutes, when I got my breath back, I was told immediately that I was no longer a resident of that home, man. So, it wasn't I just beat you down and let's talk about it. It was, I beat you down and shut up with all that crying. I got other stuff to do. I don't need to hear all this. So, nah.
Well, you had a death. We lucky for you.
Wow. Damn.
So, that brings up a good point, though, that I like to discuss, because some of the ladies in the comments who happen to be single moms, they have commented that they were tough on their sons. Is that a fallacy? Is that real? Can a mother be tough enough, especially for a black son, to prepare him for the world? Or does he need a man in the house in order to be prepared? Or can she fill that gap? And I want to make sure that I preface this question with, I'm not knocking single mothers. I was raised by one. I do believe in the capability of a single mother. But it does beg the question, can a woman be tough enough to prepare a young man for the journey, that tumultuous, arduous journey into manhood?
Can I jump on that one? When I deal with clientele that talk about their parents or talk about being single, I remind them, for those who believe in a higher power, like, if you have a trust and belief in God, you have to believe if God is your sufficiency in all things, that whatever setup you have is what your kid is going to need, because you don't know what's in the future that he'll need to have your particular ways and whatever distractions or insecurities, whatever the case may be, all the things that make up a human being. If a father is not in the picture and you believe in your higher power, you also should be of the mindset that even though we know to have both people in the home, we talk about the percentages of good things to come rise like exponentially, right? We know the benefits with having a husband and wife, the man and woman in the home. But you also should remember that with your higher power comes comfort, peace, and an understanding that you are enough, that you're not in a situation where you cannot handle what has been given to you. So single mom, yes. Does the kid lack a few things because there's no man in the house? Yes, but you also have to understand that his needs are met. His needs are met. His ability to succeed at his age and his years to come has been grained in you to give him the words, the guidance, the beatings, the love, the hugs, the comfort, all that stuff. Trust in your God is what I'm saying. And understand that you, in your situation, with God being your sufficiency in all things, is enough, despite the truth behind the benefits of having the man in the house.
Bravo, brother. Man, I'm gonna do a warm handoff to Tony Watts. Let me jump in here though. The thing, man, whenever you talk about this, we had a slogan in the Air Force. It was going through the leadership ranks because we were doing a big drawdown of how many folks we had in there. So they would always come to us talking about, yeah, our leadership motto is we're going to do more with less. And, one time I just told my team, you know what you do with less? Less. That's all you can do with less. You can't do more with less. If you got less, you're going to do less. That's what it is. Like, so stop playing these games like you can do some kind of magic and make more out of less. Less is what it is. But I think a lot of times parenthood is more about strategy, connection, and relationship than it is about flat out skill. Because, sometimes we assume single mothers is because the dad and the mother didn't get along together. Like, I'm a single father because my son's mother passed away. And there's so many different situations that happen that change that dynamic. And the reason why I said I was going to do a warm handover to Tony Watts is because when I talk about skill and connection and relationship, it takes a community. When we get back to the village, there were things put in place because they understood that in some cases it wasn't a regular nuclear family and other people had to pitch in. Maybe they didn't have the setup that everybody else had, but they made sure that there were surrogates. Somebody would step into that place. Somebody would adopt that family and do that type of thing. So I would say, the keys to life, we've heard them before, but you got to start where you are, use what you got, and do all that you can and leave it at that. What you got and what you don't got, you can't do nothing about that. Just use what you do have.
I'm gonna be smart about this and kind of get out of this pretty quickly. Rick, 100%. Everything he said was on point. Followed by John. John kind of just took everything that Rick said and made it in a nutshell. For me, it's the village. Can a woman do it by herself? Absolutely. Like we see it. We see the success stories. Obama said he was basically raised by a single mother, but also he had his grandparents to help him out. So to say if it can be done, we see the benefits of it being done. It can be done. We just have to. I think what we're thinking about are the extremes when it's the hatred. It's I've been abandoned. I got to do this by myself. I got to be extra rough with him because he's a boy. I gotta beat the manhood into him. Those situations, I think that's what we're talking about here. Because can it be done? Absolutely. And I really think, and I'm I'm gonna jump out the fifth, jump off the ledge with this one. I think there are more women doing it right than women that are doing it wrong. And I think that when we come to, what this generation has come to, and I'm listening very keenly to this generation, we are making mountains out of the low percentage. And we got that, and we're getting that from those who have perpetuated who they think we are. So all black men are criminals or potential criminals just by on sight because I have this on. So what we have turned around and done is that we're taking all of the negative aspects of our community and we're making them way bigger than they are. Because I said this before, I know way less criminals out there than there are good men out there. There's way less women abusing their privilege as mothers and not stepping up as mothers that they're single mothers that are actually doing the job, doing the work on a daily basis. So what we have to do is begin to celebrate the majority and stop blowing up the minority. And I'm gonna land it right there.
What else do I say? What he said, I think
follow Tony Watts.
right. I'll be really super brief because I think y'all summed it up. It can be done. And just to kind of reiterate, it can be done. We've seen the success stories. We know that it happens. We work with, live with, whatever these, the men who have grown up from single family homes, especially like we're Generation X. So we grew up as this whole phenomenon of the single family. We grew up with classmates that came from single family homes, and so as adults, they're doing what they got to do. So yes, it can happen. And to Tony Watt's point, there is a population of women or situations where it doesn't turn out that way. There's a lot of circumstances surrounding it that may, that person could be doing what they think is best can do, and then the surrounding community or the things that may affect them may send that son on a trajectory that may not be as positive. But I don't necessarily know, like to John Singletary's point earlier, we don't necessarily say that that's the mom's fault per se. It's like a whole bunch of different things around. It's the right recipe that creates a scenario of, going in the right direction or not. So I think it can be done with the right circumstances. In a perfect world, there will be a male figure in their life at some point that can kind of show them how to be a man. And even in the absence of that, it's really about, I guess, more to Gunter Man's point, it's really about your core values that you instill. And then when you send them out in the world, you hope that it sticks. Just with any kids, male or female, you hope that it sticks. Does a man have a monopoly on what that is for a son? Core values? I would say probably not. But, to repeat, you would want to have that in because that man can show him how to be a man and how to navigate the world. But I think with certain life skills, it can be learned over time. So I'm gonna land there.
So we've been talking about the relationship to the mother and the son as it relates to childhood. Let's fast forward a little bit. Can the relationship or the loyalty between a mother and a son, can it reach a level of toxicity? Can it be problematic? And I asked this question because Esmeralda Merlo says, and she corrected herself, my ex-husband wouldn't come home and his mother would cover for him. This is not the first time I've heard something like this, where a mother is, she doesn't see fault in her son. I used to say, and I'm gonna get in trouble for this. I'm gonna get in trouble with my own wife for this. When a woman would call her son her prince or a prince, it was always kind of a red flag for me because I felt like, okay, that's a boy who is being elevated Has he done anything to deserve that elevation? What is this pedestal that you've created for him? What has he done? So I know sometimes my mother can be very blinded by the reality of who I am. She can have, she sees me through very rose-colored glasses.
So your sister's right.
She's absolutely right. Again, sometimes she sees me for who she wants me to be rather than who I really am. So can a mother's love be toxic? Can it be problematic?
And when I think about my situation with my mom cheered me on no matter what I got into. She cheered me on because my household was very, very positive. So it wasn't like I would ever go too far off any deep end, from stealing to breaking into a place or doing drugs you kind of mimic your atmosphere. That's how it was at my home. Like I said, I don't think growing up I have ever seen my dad take a alcoholic drink. I've never seen my dad physically take a drink. I don't even think I've seen him drink a beer. But he definitely had his demands on what he thinks his son should be doing. I was horrible in school growing up until I got to college. I was horrible, but I had a knack for mathematics and physics. So I went into Derek Jones engineering. Engineering just made sense for me. So once I got to college, then I really started to see my brains. But my mom was happy with me just being a dancer because she spent so much time with me. She knew my passion. She knew my heart. So even though my dad, who didn't have these conversations with me, had these demands on what he thinks is a failure or not successful or a good choice decision as far as business or life for your family, she's like let him do what makes him happy. Let him do. I've watched him long enough to let him do what makes him happy. But my dad was like, no, why are you going into this dancing? What is this dancing? Until he saw my paychecks. Then he's like, you really did a good thing. You really did it. You made a real good decision there. You stuck to it. But that was the truth. Like, my dad knew he needed to know that I was going to bring in some type of steady finances that was going to allow him to feel like he was a success in raising me. You understand that? Like parents will look like my mom don't care about what reflection I leave on her. She just cares about me being able to live my passions, to live the things that I want to do. So no, as far as the other things go, I guess I didn't really have to deal with that stuff.
Man, with my mom, I don't think that she was toxic, but she was a rider. I'm her son. So, she going to take my side. Oh, you my boy. I got you. So it's easy to see how that gets there, I mean, I'm trying to do the right thing, but listen, mama got my back, whether it's right or it's a little side of right or whatever. But, if I was just out there just crazy, I think to an extent she would probably have my back. And, I think obviously if she's grown in her own maturation process and everything, especially if I was something like married or something, she would get me right and she would form that alliance in the proper way, I believe, at this point. But understanding how she rides for me, I can see how it goes left. You've seen those mothers where they boys can't do no wrong. And you like, yo, man, when is he gonna do right? Like, what you talking about? But it's like, no, he just, so no, I can definitely see that and how it happens. So I'm not trying to say, hey, it's okay, but I can definitely see how it happens.
I'm gonna jump in here real quick. Two small points. Cause not in my personal, my relationship with my mom, I don't think I could ever classify toxicity to it, but we know and we've seen these mothers and or families that will allow a grown man to be dating, be a boyfriend, and then he may be doing something on the side, and he'll bring that side woman over to the house, and everybody will welcome her in like she was the girlfriend. And then it'd be another one, and they'd be like, "It's cool," and it's just let it go, and it becomes a pattern of behavior. Like, oh, there's a new one, okay, cool. And it's like, well, what about the actual girlfriend? Like, what are we doing? Then the girlfriend comes home, and they're like, hey, you know what? Giving them hugs. And I'm like, wait, what? The other point I want to make too, when we talk about toxicity between a mother and a son, or a mother and a child, where it becomes toxic as they grow up, is when you make that child responsible for your emotional stability. When that child has to be the one to take on all of the stuff that you should be sharing or dealing with another adult. And there's a term, I'm going to say what the term is, but it was kind of jarring the first time I heard it. It's called emotional incest. And what happens is when you make that child responsible for that, they grow up and you start to see these things like the lines are blurred between boundaries that they should have and all these other different type of things. You can look it up. When I first heard it, I was like, ew. But then I had to key in on the word emotional. And then I was like, okay, I get it. Because it's like they're having a relationship with a kid based on emotions. And that kid isn't grown up enough to deal with that. So as an adult, you can see some of the after effects of that. And I think even though it may not be the majority, I think there is a population of women or whatever that are doing this and not knowing that that's what they're doing because they're hurt and they have all of this emotional stuff that they don't know how to process. And that kid is sitting there and they're like, well, at least my kid loves me. Let me talk to my kid about why daddy cheated or something like that. They're not equipped to handle that. And we carry, y'all know, as kids, we absorb all of that stuff. It may come out later, and it's not always negative. I'm just saying it happens. So I'm going to land there.
And if I can just piggyback on that, fathers can be very guilty of that too when we share our sexual especially single fathers or divorced fathers. We have time with our sons and we share our sexual exploits with those young men, and we share those things that they're not ready to hear. On the strength of, oh, you old enough, you're a man. No, he's not. And not only is he not old enough, he's not mature enough to understand what you're talking about. And you're forming and formulating the idea of what a woman is, and it's in direct conflict with everything that his mother is. And so now he's trying to figure out, how do I navigate womanhood? Because here's the woman in my life, my mother, and here are all the women that you're conquering. And these things, they don't add up. I just wanted to add that in there.
Excellent point. Go ahead, T.
Tony, I think that was very important that you brought that in there, because that is an aspect of this. I guess we can use the word toxic because it's on the table. Because mothers do it, fathers do it. We say to the kid when he's young, you're going to be a lady killer. You're going to be a lady killer. And then he starts bringing all these women home. He starts doing all of these things. And you continue to cycle that through his brain about what he's going to be. So, and then he grows up to be released to the world, and he can't say, let me stop and focus on this one person. I'm supposed to have it all. I'm supposed to have all these girls. I'm not supposed to have one girl. I'm supposed to have a ton of girls. And that's a problem that's out there as well. But I'd like to kind of rewind a little bit and go back to a mother's lenient on sons, and that is also a part of what we're talking about in this particular part of the conversation, is that, again, there's no boundaries. So Saturday morning, I'm gonna use Saturday morning because it's Saturday morning for me. You get up to clean the house. Your sister's already up washing the dishes. She's cooking the breakfast, and then you mose around. They put the plate in front of you, and so when he gets to a relationship and he hasn't been taught how to do those things, He's expecting this person that's with him now to do the same thing. And then that conversation becomes, why did you don't act like my mother? You don't act like my family. No, sir, your family has emasculated you and you don't even know it. You think you were put in a man's position. You weren't. You were put in a kingly position that you did not deserve. You did nothing to deserve this particular position, but this is the position you were put in. When we close out, I have something that I want to say about how this all worked out, because I just kind of formulated a map while we were talking. But it's really important that, again, we reform the village, we support the women. And if you got to find a kid on the block that you can get close to his mother without trying to have sex with her, please, can we just all just be human and just find somebody that we could help out without it having to be sexually involved? Because I think that's important. I think that's a part of maturity that I think that we've kind of lost. Because if you see me talking to the single mother across the street and I'm with her son, all of a sudden, oh, Tone's trying to hit it. No, can we stop that? Can we stop all of these little innuendos that make no sense to kind of break barriers and make people not want to help each other out, because now you're creating scenarios that are not really there, right? So I think it is very important that, yes, we have these relationships with our moms, right? I think we have, and I think we overly have the relationships with our mothers, some of us, is because they handled everything. Rick is a perfect example. His mother nurtured him in such a way that he made time to be with his mother more than anything else. Now, if you don't even, now Rick's benefit was that he had a father. Now imagine not having a dad and you do that. Imagine having a mother, and we're not saying all mothers, we're saying that's that low percentage of toxic mothers that is mad at the dad, is mad at the other boyfriends who treated them all terrible, and is sitting there telling this man, your father ain't garbage, you act just like your dad, and all of this stuff continues to roll and continue to grow, to fester and grow into this boy, and he's being pushed out into the world to be a man, but he has no idea how to do it. So we have to figure out how we can get back to the village mentality where me being the guy down the block could stop your son and say, hey, dude, I kind of saw what you did the other day. Like, let's really talk about that. You sure you should be doing that? And you don't come to me and go, mind your business. You come to me and go, thank you, Tony, for assisting my son. And I know a lot of people going, oh, but you know, these weird people out here, they'll touch my child. Once we put the village back together, we'll begin to exile those people who's doing that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna land it right there.
So we are at almost at an hour and a half, and I want to be conscientious of the fact that it is a school night. I really want to say thank you to all of the people who tune in week after week. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate you. Obviously, the goal is for any channel to grow, but I really like the intimacy of recognizing names and knowing these people, and I absolutely love that. And I think I can safely speak for the other guys on the panel that we really enjoy your loyalty. We enjoy the fact that we're putting out something that you see as valuable. So please keep tuning in. Please keep going back to the YouTube channel, because we're trying to grow that platform. Invite others to the channel as well. And thank you for commenting. I think this is a very important conversation, and I doubt this is the last time we're going to talk about it, because I think that all of us recognize, you know, we had dipped into and you already talked about it, but we dipped into a Clubhouse room earlier, and it was a bunch of men talking about simping and all this other stuff. And I think the disconnect isn't necessarily, and I love that John said this, we don't need to blame single mothers for anything, right? We need to recognize that as men, you know, we have a responsibility to each other to tell the truth. Even if it's not glamorous, even if it's not, you know, it would be real easy for all five of us to put together a YouTube page or a Facebook group and just attack women. And it would be very popular, because that's popular right now, especially attacking Black women. That you can get a lot of fame attacking Black women. But we've decided that it's more important for us to tell the truth and to, really focus on how do we build better men. And that's the goal ultimately, because I think all of us believe that by starting here, starting at home, starting with ourselves and starting with one another, the community will follow. Tony Watts, you have this great quote that you always say about building men and what is it? I don't want to butcher it.
When the men go crazy, the women and children are soon to follow.
There you go. Yeah. So I think that's if we were to have a mission statement, I think that's the mission, is to build better men through conversations. So we're going to do this every single week, every Monday night, barring a major holiday or something like that, with a great topic. But we want to make sure that we're talking about the things that you want to hear. So please get on the Facebook page, hit us in the DMs, follow us. Let us know what you want to talk about, because we really want this to be something that belongs to you just as much as it belongs to us, because we really feel like we're doing something that I think has value. Make sure you follow every single person on the stage. On your screen right now. It's important. We got to support one another. So I'm going to go around the room and let everybody, shout out what they're up to. Let us know how we can find you on the interwebs, and we'll close it out for tonight.
Well, once again, guys, you guys can follow me at Soapbox Stand Up and Speak and on Instagram, Gunter Man Show on YouTube, as well as Facebook, Rick Gunterman Gunter. My show is Thursday nights on Instagram Live at Soapbox Stand Up and Speak at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Once a week, I have a guest come in and share their aspect, their victories, the things that they're doing, allowing the world to see that everyone has value in the things that they've been through. And the person this Thursday coming has been through a lot. So if you want to hear a story about a gentleman at the age of only 26 has overcome so much and is accomplishing amazing things, check me out on Thursday night, Instagram Live at Soapbox Stand Up and Speak.
All right, I'll go next. Again, my name is Derek Jones. I'm the host of the Relationship Gumbo podcast every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube. So you can, if you go to our page, realshoptalk.net, my link to my Instagram is there, and just click the link in the bio. That'll make it real easy for you. Also, I wanted to point this out too, and you'll see the flyer circulating this week, but Dope Discussions with Erica podcast, who's been here since day one. We're going to be on her show this Sunday coming at 6:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and we just gonna have a talk about a topic, and we're all gonna be there, and we're gonna get it in the way that we do every week. So we're looking forward to that too. So thank you, Erica, for having us on your show. And I'm past the mic. That's all I got.
Passing the mic and landing and all that good stuff. Let me see. What do I want to say? The Help Myself podcast, man, we gonna spin back up next Monday. We're pre-recorded, so no competition. Dropping on Apple, Spotify, Google, Breaker, whatever you listen to. So we'll be dropping again at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Monday. We took a little break, so we'll be back. And if you want to get connected, the landing page. You hear my DJ? I got a DJ, y'all, and he won't stay away. He hype, but the landing page is thehelpmyselfpodcast.com, man. Check us out. We're about to go through a summertime expansion and get it popping for the fall season coming in September. And I haven't told all of them yet, but all of these guys are going to be on the podcast as guests, because that's how we do it. So, be looking out for that, because we're going to be pumping it up. So now y'all have a good night. We appreciate your support, and please let us know, if there's something you want to hear us talk about, anything that you think would be value add to what we're bringing on Monday nights. Man, we are open for suggestions. We are here for the people.
Well, I'm Tony A. Watts on Instagram, and I think that's the best place that you can find me, because once you go into Instagram and hit my bio, you'll go up, it'll link tree to you to everything else. But I'm also the host of Triumphant TV on YouTube. We're on a little break right now. I'm revamping some things because there's a lot of things going on, and we in August we'll pop back in with a lot of keen, good interviews going on. But what I want to do real quick, I just want to leave you guys with a thought. All right, when we think about the toxicity that's permeating our society from women to men. So in slavery times, right, the male was separated from the family. The male was taken from the family. The female, right, would then have to take care of the master's kids, the master, and any other child that popped up on that plantation. They were given that responsibility. So we fast forward through Jim Crow and all of that when we try to get together, and because of certain laws, they were able to do certain things to us that were unlawful. So what we still stayed together as a village, but there was a certain dynamic that continued. And the '60s with the welfare system, what they did again was they removed the male from the family. All right, they put the woman again in position to be the nurturer of the kids. So now the result of that is you have a mother who has been traumatically traumatized, and I'm using that word loosely, over centuries of seeing a reoccurring thing happen. So when a woman holds on to her boy and she treats her boy a certain way, it's because she understands at any time he could be snatched away from her. We have to understand and respect that. But what we have to do at the same time is when we bring the village back, we have to let them know it's okay. We got you. So I just want to leave you with that nugget. All right. Thank you guys for joining us, man. We love you guys for every time you guys log in and spend your time with us, man. We deeply appreciate it. Over to the master of ceremony, TM.
I love when you talk cause and effect, man, because I really believe that sometimes we get so focused on effect, we forget about cause. Nothing happens in a vacuum. And I love the fact that you keep bringing that to the center because we can talk about we can talk about what things are all day, but we have to have the conversation about why, because, a man who doesn't know his history is doomed to repeat it, right? So understanding the cause to me is paramount because then you can have empathy when you're dealing with the effect. And I think that's key. So my name is Tony Massey. You can find me at Tony Massey Speaks, Tony Massey Cooks. I do have a new venture that I'm asking you to support me on. I'm going to start a new show on my Tony Massey Cooks page called Chef in the Spotlight. This is where I have combed the interwebs, my TikTok page, my Instagram page, and found some dope private chefs, home amateur cooks, professional chefs, and I'm just going to invite them onto the page and just ask them questions, just interview them, give them some time, some access to you, and hopefully they'll share some really good recipes. I have such a passion for food, and so this is just a way for me to share that passion because and especially for men, I think it's really cool when a man can cook for himself. No disrespect to the ladies. Of course, I'd love to sit down to a hot meal, but again, we're talking about making better men. And I think that expecting someone like Tony Watts said to be like your mother is an erroneous expectation. There's a woman that brings more to the table than just a hot meal, especially if you can cook for yourself. So I hope you enjoy me in that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, follow me, Tony Massey Cooks, Tony Massey Speaks, and you can always follow the Real Shop Talk at realshoptalk.net. Every single show we've done is on that site. My man Derek, our ambassador, our web ambassador, Mr. Derek Jones, he is the reason. He's done our logos, all of the dope artwork that you see that we use. Derek Jones is all about that. So, and that's the other thing. What I love, this is a true collaboration. There's not one man above any other in this group. We all bring so much value, energy, and thought-provoking ideas and talents and treasure. Not one person has said you owe me or how much is this going to cost. We come together for the purposes of sharing with you. And so we appreciate you. We love you. And we will see you next Monday. Shop Talk. We out.
Yeah, the real shop talk. Just come and take a listen. Some grown men with unbiased and honest opinions, and with no agendas, so you just gotta check it. Talking love and life from a male perspective. We keep it authentic, real, no filter. Leave a comment, be part of the show. We here to give you 5 gentlemen's views about manhood, no doubt. This the show you've been needing, yeah, it's the real shop talk. Let's go.